Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this information session on the Creative Futures Fund. My name is Pip Whitnome. I'm the Director of Project Investment here at Creative Australia, and I'm also joined by...
I am Alice Nash, and I'm the Executive Director of Arts Investment at Creative Australia.
Acknowledging that we are recording this information session today on the lands of the Gadigal people of the EOI Nation, and we pay our respects to Elders past and present, and to the First Nations colleagues we have the good fortune to work alongside, and the First Nations applicants and communities that we support here at Creative Australia.
So in this session, we'll take you through the new Creative Futures Fund, where it came from and what its purpose is. We'll give you an overview of the program guidelines and eligibility criteria, what the application and assessment processes are, and we'll provide some advice on frequently asked questions that we've already received. This fund has never existed before, and there's nothing quite like it nationally or internationally at this scale, as far as we know. It's an initiative of the National Cultural Policy. It supports the creation and sharing of Australian stories and new ways for people to engage with them as audience members or participants. We're seeking great ideas that are genuinely innovative and unexpected. We will, through this fund, support creative and other forms of risk-taking. And through the fund and with the fund, we want to build sector capacity, for instance, to leverage existing Australian work and intellectual property, create new connections and partnerships, and develop new sources of income for artists and organizations.
So the detailed guidelines are now available on the Creative Australia website. If you go to the investment and development menu at the top of the page, that will get you there. The guidelines list the program purpose, the key dates, the eligibility of who can apply and for what kinds of activities, how to apply, how applications are assessed, and what happens if you are successful. There are two streams of investment that you can apply to, development and delivery, and there are separate guidelines pages for each. The development investment is available for amounts between $50,000 to $250,000. It will support you to develop stories or adapt existing work, to develop a proof of concept, to develop new partnerships and ways of working. Whereas the delivery investment is available for between $250,000 and up to $1.5 million. And it will support you to adapt existing work, to secure co-investment, build the structure and scaffolding to deliver the work, and to help demonstrate the impact that that work is having for audience and the creatives involved. The table there just summarizes the different kinds of activities that each investment stream will support. So please read the guidelines really carefully. And if you have any questions about the eligibility or the kinds of projects that we're looking for, you can give us a call to talk about it. In terms of the guidelines, some points we wanted to just highlight from the eligibility and what you will see in the guidelines. These are open only to organisations. There is a significant amount of money available to apply for, and that represents a pretty significant amount of financial risk for the people applying. So we are prioritising in this investment cycle, at least, applications from organisations. But we will look favourably on those organisations that demonstrate a real collaboration with individual artists, other organisations or with groups. You can submit one application per applicant, per investment stream. That does mean technically you can submit an application both to the development and to the delivery stream, but we would encourage you to think very carefully about that. because you would not be very unlikely you would get funding for both. We'd be looking at your capacity to take on that amount of work at the same time. So I would encourage you to think very carefully about which stream you apply to. It is open to any art form that is supported by Creative Australia, so or any combination of art forms as you might want to include in your application. We have a real emphasis on Australian stories. We've defined that as intellectual property owned by Australian citizens, permanent residents, or an Australian company, Australian concepts, subject matter relevant to contemporary Australia. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, because this has been a big topic of conversation with people so far. We also want to support innovation in the creative content, ways of working, and in connecting with new audiences. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in our advice part. And we also want to flag that it's a two-stage application process. So an initial expression of interest, which is now open, a simple application. And then once we assess those applications, a small number will be invited to submit a more detailed full application. The guidelines on the website for the expression of interest stage are very detailed. The guidelines for the full application stage are less so. We'll be adding more detail about the full application questions and support material in the coming months, but the eligibility and assessment criteria that are already on the website will remain the same. I think this one's you, Alice.
Okay. So the application forms for expressions of interest are simpler than for the second stage of applications. There are 3 main questions for the EOI. The first one is about your organization and your key partners. Who are you? Is this an application led by your organization? Are you applying on behalf of a number of organizations? Are you working with key artists or other creative collaborators? Second question asks you to describe the story you want to develop or deliver and who you want to share this with. What do you want to, so what do you actually want to do and why? Focusing on the artistic concept, its audiences or communities or other people who might receive the work. We're also interested in the alignment of your project with the priorities of the fund. How can you explain the innovation in the project? And in what ways is this story that you are telling an Australian story? The text boxes are limited in the form are limited 2,400 characters for each, approximately 600 words, 1 page of text per question. We're not looking for exhaustive tomes of information, because this is an expression of interest, just the first stage of applications. Again, check the guidelines carefully and the information required for support material. A little bit of statistical data that we're collecting through this process will help us with our reporting and program evaluation. It doesn't form part of the assessment by our industry advisors.
So we will be convening in industry advice panels to assess the applications. These are likely to be multi-art form panels with advisors with diverse experience and representation. Depending on the number of expressions of interest that we receive, we may need to form more than 1 panel to manage the volume of that work. So they'll be split across that if that's the case. The assessment criteria will be the same, whoever assesses them. For both programs will be assessed against the quality of the artistic concept and the artistic team or collaborators, and the alignment with the priorities of the fund, that telling of Australian stories, and the innovation. If you are applying for delivery investment, you will additionally be assessed against viability, which particularly relates to the team and the previous iteration of the work. It should have already had some kind of public showing or sharing moments. So that's the additional criteria that will be picked up there. Advisors will be scoring those applications against the criteria and then advising Creative Australia on which applications to prioritise to bring through for a full application. Final decisions on which applicants to invite will be a decision of Creative Australia staff, and it will be moderated and approved to ensure that we have a diverse investment portfolio of applications to consider. We'll also determine the level of investment that organisations can apply for in stage 2, along with any specific feedback on issues to address or specific support material that applicants should provide in their full application. The amount that we advise you to apply for in stage 2 might be higher or lower. It will depend, and that's obviously something that we will continue to negotiate with successful applicants. So just some key dates to draw your attention to. Expressions of interest must be submitted by 3 p.m. AEST on Tuesday, the 6th of August, 2024. We aim to notify people of the outcomes in October, not a particular date yet, but hopefully by about mid-October. And those invited to submit a full application must do so on Tuesday, the 3rd of December. It is a bit of a slower process than perhaps people are used to with most of our grant programs. You won't have a final outcome until February 2025 of the full from the full application stage, with activities commencing from March 2025. So if you're looking for something to give you funding sooner, this is probably not your fund. Maybe have a think about the September closing date of arts projects might be a better fit. Okay, so this is the final portion of the information session. Alice and I are just going to talk through a couple of common and sort of recurring conversations that we've had with people who are considering applying to the fund, about what is or isn't a priority, how we define that Australian story, how companies that receive multi-year investment will fare compared to those who get support from our various project investment streams, how we will conduct that moderation. And we just want to talk about the fact this is not the kind of usual grant program that we would run. So we want to flag that up front as well. Okay, the slide's coming down. Alice. Oh, I'm starting. That's right. Okay. Let's start on the what we won't support and what isn't a priority. We talk a lot about this not being a business as usual fund. We're not interested in just your business as usual. So, for example, if your core business is commissioning large events and you're seeking funding for doing another large event, not a priority for this fund. If, however, that event involved you working in a completely different way with new partners, you were reaching new audiences, it involved a high degree of risk compared to your usual work, that would be a better fit. You really need to make a strong case for the innovation and the difference of your project to be competitive. Otherwise, you should be considering applying to a funding stream like arts projects, which might be a better fit. Projects that focus on developing a film or a game, which are already supported by other investment agencies and programs, aren't a good fit for this fund. Although we do recognise we might support a project that has a game or a film component. We just wouldn't duplicate the kind of support that is already offered by another agency. And as we've said, individual applicants aren't eligible in this first round of this first investment cycle. However, we will support those organisations genuinely collaborating with or working in partnership with individual artists and groups. And we might reserve the right to change our mind in future cycles, investment cycles as well, which is something Alice gets quite excited about when we talk about the difference this program represents. Alice, is there anything you want to add on other things we wouldn't support or those comments?
No, but just to riff on what is exciting about this fund is we want to be surprised by the applications that come into the EOIs. We want to know what artists and artistic and creative organizations caliber are dreaming up that we wouldn't ourselves imagine. So we do get very excited about the unexpected aspect of this fund. And because it's an unusual fund and we're trying a little bit of a different way of doing this, we will, across the life of the fund, change our minds a little bit, which is a little bit unusual for an investment agency like Creative Australia. We'll still run a good process, but we might change our process or how we gear the fund for the future. So another frequently and much debated question already that's come through the door on the fund, pretty much everyone that Pip and I met with about the fund said, how do we define an Australian story for this fund? So this investment will support the telling of Australian stories to new audiences and in new ways. When we say audiences, that could be community participants or people who attend a public event or an exhibition. We're trying to be not be prescriptive that it's someone sitting somewhere watching something formally in a conventional setting, but it could be. Anyway, our working definition is that for what constitutes an Australian story is that the intellectual property must be majority owned by Australian creatives or be an Australian concept and or relevant to contemporary Australia. What does that mean in practice? It might be a new work or experience created by Australian citizens on Australian-based or citizens on Australian-based companies. Yes, that is an Australian story. It might be a modern retelling in Australia by an Australian creative team of a work created overseas, majority international. No, it won't. It won't tell a non-Australian story and have majority international IP. So this is a very Australian fund. It also doesn't have to be a stereotyped Australian story. There are many, many stories across our land, many complex and deep stories. So we don't expect it to be exactly what you expect out of Australia, but it must be Australian.
And I think you would say, the notion of IP might not be relevant to all art forms or all types of projects. So there's no real fixed definition that will apply to every type of project we think that might come in. So, but we will be looking for you to make the case for why this is an Australian story and probably seeking more evidence to that in stage 2, I would say. So another kind of area of debate that's come up a bit is about the fact that organisations receiving multi-year investment from Creative Australia are eligible to apply to this fund, and what that means in terms of a competitive advantage. I guess for those people who do receive multi-year investment and are thinking about applying, I think the onus is really strong on you to demonstrate that this project is not a core part of your multi-year investment funding agreement that you already have with us. So the business as usual aspect, very critical for those applicants. If you're in doubt about whether that is the case, please talk to your multi-year investment manager at Creative Australia for advice about that. For organisations not receiving multi-year investment, we understand that taking on a project that might be riskier for you has its challenges. And so the guidelines specify that a reasonable contribution from our investment can be put towards staffing and operational costs in support of this particular activity or project. We just caution you to remember that this support is not ongoing. It's limited to the lifespan of the project itself. So you need to think really carefully how about any increase in operational costs are sustained or scaled back beyond the life of the project. But regardless of your type of organisation, the scale of organisation, every submission will be assessed against the criteria, and we are looking to support a very diverse group of organisations and application types.
Why can't individuals apply, Pip?
As we said earlier, it's a lot of money and it's a large financial risk for an individual to take on behalf of themselves or of other people that they're working with. And just to emphasize, that's the decision we took for this first investment cycle. We'll see what comes back. We'll see if we can see the genuine collaboration between organizations and individual artists in the projects that we support. We might think about it differently in the second or third investment cycle. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people always want to know how we make the decisions, of course, with industry advisors, with staff members. And in this case, we're going to moderate the decisions we make. And so the question is, what do we mean by moderation? So we'll use a moderation process in both stages, and one, that's the expression of interest stage, and stage 2, the full applications. So our industry advisors, who are experts from a wide range of fields, from the creative and artistic spheres, paid experts, will assess applications and give us advice on how they should be prioritized. Our staff will take this advice and ensure that a diverse and balanced portfolio of applications will progress to the next stage. By that, we mean that applications from different kinds and scales of organization, different kinds of projects, including different art forms, organizations, and projects, connecting with different audiences in different locations. We will also be balancing the risk of the projects themselves. Some might be more risky than others, more speculative and ambitious, and some might be smaller and less risky, maybe risky on the terms of that particular applicant, but less risky than the bigger, more speculative ones. So it depends on the kinds of applications we receive. But in short, we're going to have, we hope, a portfolio of really thoughtful, surprising projects which tell Australian stories. We don't know how big or little they'll be, and we're excited to see, as I've said before.
And yes, I think we consider we'll have done a good job if we have a mix of things, because we want to see if we seed different types of projects, what different kinds of outcomes will come from it. So this is not the usual kind of grant program that Creative Australia runs. The normal sort of grant program, you would tell us what you want to do. We make a decision whether to fund you. You go away and do the work. And then you come back and acquit the grant, and we move on to the next thing. Successful recipients of this investment will enter into bespoke investment agreements that reflect the context of each individual proposal. And that may mean negotiating the level of investment, the special conditions included in the contract, and the deliverables themselves, whether those are social, cultural, structural, financial kinds of returns. If we do invest in commercial projects, we might, in some cases, negotiate recoupment of funds as well. And that will be part of that negotiation process with successful applicants. So that's not something that we've done typically with a lot of our projects. And whereas we've normally had one funding agreement, one type of funding agreement with our project recipients, a portion of it will be similar, and then some of it will be negotiated. And that will be working on sort of developing that standard template over the coming months. We do also want to evaluate this program. It is a major initiative of the National Cultural Policy, and we want to work with those receiving the investment to evaluate the projects as well. So unlike our project, our normal approach with project grants, we will be staying in touch with you throughout the life of this project. It's a different kind of project relationship, and one that's much more akin to the relationship we have with our multi-year investment clients. So it will feel a bit different, and we're very upfront about that. And so if you are kind of looking, if your preference is to get funding and go away and do the work without being bothered, this is probably not the program for you either. So it is just go into that knowing that it is a different kind of relationship that you will have with us.
I'll just add on that whilst we'll be in dialogue and discussion and negotiation with successful applicants, we're not the producer of any given project in which we invest. And I like to think in the best sense that dialogue and discussion will be really productive and useful to projects and help make sure they're better, stronger, more interesting Australian stories. But we won't interfere in an artistic concept. I think it's important to know that.
And I think we're looking at this as a learning opportunity for our agency as well, the sense that what can we learn about the way the sector makes and delivers ambitious projects? What other things could we be doing by ourselves or with partners to actually make it a better, or to remove the barriers from organisations who want to work in these sort of ambitious and creative ways? So it's as much about us learning about the sector and changing the way that we work, we hope, as it is for those that we invest in.
Yeah, and even how we structure agreements with artists, how we come to an agreement about how we invest through other projects. If the fund really sings, it might alter how we think and how we interact with artists. It might also expose different ways of working, uncover things that need greater support and development in the sector, and which we could then also address through a portion of funds from this allocation. So we're hoping it will support artists, stories, communities, audiences, and the mechanisms that we use to invest and develop those artists and organizations for their communities.
And ultimately that people get to experience some amazing opportunities and events and experiences as a result. So that's the hope. That's all we have for you for this information session. Just to reiterate, the guidelines are available now. Please read them in detail. And if you have any questions, you can get in touch with us, Creative Futures Fund at creative.gov.au, or you can give us a call on our usual numbers. And we will update the guidelines with more answers to those frequently asked questions as we go through. Thank you so much for watching this. We look forward to speaking to you about your ideas and concepts, and wish you all the best with your applications.
Thank you. And also thank you so much to our Auslan interpreters today. Wishing you all a peaceful time thinking about new projects. Thanks.
Thank you.